Okay, so for the first one, you should have real and rational. Let me put my hand in there. It is a real number because all those numbers in the chart that we saw yesterday were real. And then rational just means that it can be written as a fraction, and it is written as a fraction. That is far as we can go in terms of naming it. The next one would be integer, and since it's not like a negative whole number, then it's not an integer. The next one is simplify. Did you get 220 or negative 16? If you got negative 16, you did it right. Did you get negative 16? Is there anybody that, do you want me to go over the specific steps? Okay, I'll go over the specific steps. First of all, you need to start with the exponent right here. So negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 would be 16. And then bring everything down. You may just subtract this while you're at it because the next step will be parentheses. So while I'm bringing everything down, I'm just going to subtract that. 1 minus negative 5 would be negative 4. And then bring everything down. So now I'm just left with addition and subtraction, particularly subtraction. With this subtracting a negative, you add the opposite, so that becomes positive 4. Negative 4 plus positive 4 is just 0. 0 minus 16 equals negative 16, and that is your answer. The next one, it wants you to evaluate this. This is probably the longest of all the problems here. And it's all crooked. Let's see if I can straighten it. It's a little better. Okay, so we're evaluating this based on these values. If you did all the work, you should have gotten 224. If you got 224, congratulations. You did every little thing right. If you didn't get 224, it was probably a small little error somewhere. So let's go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to kind of solve it up here. Let me put my hand in here. Zoom it. Move this back. Okay, so I'm going to take this expression, plug in these values, and write it up here. So I have b is negative 4 minus a, which is negative 3, times c, which is 6. Close the parentheses. Then b squared would be negative 4 squared. Okay, and from here I'm going to solve for the exponent first. Or I could, actually I should be solving within the parentheses, right? Okay, so parentheses first. Starting with the multiplication, negative 3 times 6 would be negative 18. And then bring everything down. Negative 4 minus negative 18, so you add the opposite, and then you get positive 14. And then negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 would be 16, and then 14 times 16 is 224. Okay. The next one, name the property. In this case, 15xr times 1 is just 15xr. It's staying itself. It is keeping its identity. So that is identity property. And then number 5. It wants us to simplify. What it means by simplify is combine the like terms. When you combine the like terms or when you write it in standard form, you should be putting it in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with the x's. Something that I've done since I learned this in high school was when you combine like terms, you find the x's and just do like a symbol underneath all of the x's. In this case, I'm using a straight line. Negative 15x plus 32x would be 17x. Then I'm going to look for all the y's. In this case, I'm going to do like a squiggly line under the y's. Do you guys use a process similar to this too? Like some kind of symbol? And then 10y plus 15y would be 25y. Now I'm looking for the z's. I have negative 3z and negative 6z. That would be negative 9z. And then last but not least, the constants, 25 and negative 5, which would be 20. So your answer to this one should be that. And the sixth problem, find the additive and multiplicative inverse for negative 7. When you're finding the additive inverse, you're looking for something you can add to equal 0, and for multiplication, something you can multiply to equal 1. So for additive, what can we add to negative 7 to equal 0? You would add 7. And for multiplicative, so you would use the reciprocal. So negative 7 over 1 times negative 1 over 7 would equal 1. So for multiplication, it would be negative 1 over 7.
Negative 1 over 7?
Yes, because you'd want to get positive. Okay, now we're going to start the lesson. There's 3 types of problems really for this lesson. These types of problems you have seen in Algebra 1, but of course they are a little bit harder now that you're in Algebra 2. So first off, get my screen kind of lined up. Okay, is that good? Should I zoom in more? There. Okay, it says write an algebraic expression to represent each verbal expression. So they're giving you the expression in words, and all you have to do is write it in numbers. Easier said than done sometimes, but what I would suggest is just as you read it the first time through, make notes for yourself. So, for example, the cube of a number. Cube of a number, that would be a number cubed. So before I look at the whole thing and get confused, as I read it, I'm writing down what I see. Increased by, that would be a plus sign. 4 times the same number. So 4 times the same number, they're referring to this number, so the same variable. So 4 times the same number. And that's your answer. Here's the thing with these. If you read this through and then started looking at the answer choices to narrow it down, you would totally confuse yourself. What I would recommend is just reading this, writing it down just like as you see it, and then going to match the multiple choice. Next one, 3 times. So again, 3 times what? The difference of a number in 8. Like that. 3 times this. So it would look like this, 3 times x minus 8. And that's your answer. Okay, now for 3 and 4, we're going to work backwards. Now we're going to write a verbal sentence to represent the equation. Here we have x minus 5 equals negative 2. There's different ways that you could write this. The one we're going to write down is the difference of a number and 5 is equal to negative 2. The difference of a number and 5 is equal to negative 2. For number 4, of course, it's a little bit more complicated. 2 times c equals c squared minus 4. How would we write that in words? There's more than one way to do this, but we're going to say 2 times a number is equal to that same number squared less 4. Everyone got that down? That's the first type of problem we're going to see in this lesson. Then the next type of problem. We're going to solve equations, which I'm sure you did a lot of in algebra. Again, algebra 2, it gets stepped up a notch. This chart right here is important. Most of the time, you'll get an answer as x equals a number, and that means it has one solution. There may be cases where you get a situation like this, like 5 equals 5, or it might be x equals x, and you're like, say what? That means it has unlimited solutions, so that sometimes happens. And then if you get a situation come up like this where 2 equals 6 or 3 equals 5, something that's false, that doesn't even make sense, that is no solution. I don't believe we have any of the unlimited or no solutions come up in this lesson, but just make a note of it. For example, if you're working on the SATs and you get some weird situation like this, then you would be looking for unlimited solutions in the answer choices. Or if you got a situation like this on the SATs, then it's no solution. So those situations do come up. Now, we are going to solve these for x. This first one here, we're going to use the distributive property to distribute this 3 and this 2 to these two terms. So we multiply 3 times 2x and 3 times negative 1. And then negative 2 times 3x and negative 2 times 4. So it would be negative 6x minus 8 equals 11x. From here, combine your like terms and solve for x. So 6x minus 6x, that's actually 0, that just cancels. Then you're left with negative 3 and negative 8, that's negative 11 equals 11x. Divide by 11, x equals negative 1. And that's your answer. Okay, number 7. 7 is like worst case scenario for this lesson. Oh, it's blurry. Focus. You can do it. There it goes. Okay, worst case scenario, you have 2 fractions. Most of the problems you'll have 1 fraction, but 2 fractions, like, come on. You could do this all with fractions. You could multiply 2/5 times x, 2/5 times 4, distribute it that way. Then you would have to subtract fractions, and it gets kind of sticky. To avoid the fractions, we're actually going to multiply this entire thing by the least common multiple of 5 and 2, which would be 10. So here's what this will look like. I'm rewriting it out. But this first half of the equation, I'm multiplying by 10. And then 1/2, I'm also multiplying by 10, and it'll completely get rid of the fractions for me. Okay, so here, 10 over 1 times 2/5 equals 20 over 5, which equals 4. So instead of 2/5 now, we're just going to have 4x minus 4, and 10 times 1/2 is 5. Most of the time, honestly, so for example, if there's only one fraction in this equation and you just wanted to get rid of the 2/5, you would multiply the whole thing by 5, and then it would just be 2x minus 4, and so on. So just keep that in mind. Normally, you won't have to find this least common multiple. You're just multiplying by the denominator, and it gets rid of it. Once we get here, you distribute and just continue solving for x like you normally would. Now it doesn't come out pretty. The answer is actually 21 over 4. You would simplify that if you could. I mean, you could turn it into a decimal if you wanted to, but we'll leave it like that. Okay, number 8. Number 8. Looking at this problem, it says if 4g plus 5 equals 4/9, what is the value of 4g minus 2? So what we would do for this problem, and just write this down, you would solve for g. So you would take this, you would solve it all for g, so you got g equals a number. And then plug it into second expression or expression. So you would get g equals some number, and then you would take that, plug it in here, and then you could find the value of 4g minus 2. We aren't going to go through all those steps because this problem, I don't know if it has a typo in it or what, but it comes out like so crazy. The actual answer to this, if you were feeling like amazing and wanted to do something really hard, the actual answer comes out to this. It is not pretty, and pretty much all the numbers throughout the problem are weird fractions like this. So we're not going to walk through all the steps, but if you were to get a situation like this, all you do is solve for g and then plug that into the second equation. Julian, did you try it? I know you're working ahead, so I didn't know if you tried it. Okay, now we're back to normal problems. 9 and 10. It says solve each formula for the given variable. So here it has an equation and it wants us to solve for y. What that means is it wants everything equal to just y. So we're going to take this and we're going to get y by itself on one side. So starting by subtracting 5x from both sides, 2y equals negative 5x plus 18. We're almost there. We just need to get y by itself. Divide both sides by 2. So divide all this by 2. Then we get y equals negative 5 halves x plus 9. And that is our answer. Then number 10, same type of problem. It gives us an equation. This time we're solving for h, which is right here. So first step in getting h by itself, we're going to subtract 2 pi r squared from both sides. So we get s minus 2 pi r squared equals 2 pi rh. And then from there, to get h by itself, we just divide this by 2 pi r, which will cancel it out, and divide this side by 2 pi r. So s minus 2 pi r squared over 2 pi r equals h. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Okay, once you get that down, I am going to have you start your homework on 1-3. Your homework is on Schoology, and then if you finish it, if you get your 8 out of 10 or higher, then just start or work on Khan Academy for the week. I would have you use the laptops, however, ClassLink has been not consistently working this morning. So it's better if you use your phone, you have a better chance of getting on it from your phone. So your phone, log onto your homework, get it started.